Hey guys, it's Lori. Haven't been on in a while, been super busy, but things are going really well. So, just had a couple things I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I was listening to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny this morning on a live video on Instagram, which incidentally, I got to a point where I didn't have any internet coverage or service. And so I lost the video. But I got to listen to about 45 minutes of it. She was interviewing Dr. Christine Northrup. And they brought up something about the flu vaccine that I was not aware of, but I thought was pretty darn important. And that is, back when, oh my gosh, and I can't remember what her name was, Judy Mikovits, is that what her name was? Who talked about how some of the flu vaccines are now made with canine kidney cells, and the dogs can carry coronavirus. So that potentially could be, if you get a flu shot, a way that, you could be susceptible to having at least coronavirus, whether it be COVID specific or whatever. Well, she also went on to say that chickens carry coronavirus. And so I started doing a little bit of research, and it got pretty interesting. I never knew this, and she was talking about this, but it turns out, and I think this is kind of hilarious, this is an article that came out March 29th of 2020, okay? It's titled, "The U.S. Keeps Millions of Chickens in Secret Farms to Make Flu Vaccines, but Their Eggs Won't Work for Coronavirus." So, the whole point is telling you the reason they can't use eggs to make coronavirus vaccine, right? Which, even way back in March, they had this on the horizon, But it turns out few people know where the chickens are kept. Their locations are undisclosed as a matter of national security. Now, these are the chickens that are laying the eggs that they're growing the flu vaccine in. So, but these eggs aren't for breakfast. They're a source of your common flu shot. Okay, get this. Want to know where some of your taxpayer money's going? Each day, hundreds of thousands of their eggs are trucked to facilities where they are protected by guards and multi-million-dollar government-funded security systems. Can you believe this? But it talks about how many eggs they need. For the past 80 years, much of the world has relied on chicken eggs for the production of influenza vaccines. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see, to prepare the annual flu seasons as well as for possible pandemics, the U.S. government has invested tens of hundreds of millions of dollars over the past 15 years to ensure there are enough eggs for vaccines. And then it talks about the fact that, what would happen if they ran out of these eggs, and that all these crucial flu vaccines, for which, if you know anything about the flu vaccine, and I know you do, the effectiveness is, in any given year, less than 50%. And that's not even like, they actually, if you go to the CDC website, it specifies what age has the highest percentage of coverage. And the elderly, where it's needed most, if it were to work, that is hands down always the losing group. It's like, it'll be less than 20%. It'll be highest in like children ages 9 to 17 or something. So anyway, but it also went on to say how back in September of 2019 that President Trump had signed a executive order expanding the use of, or like how they manufacture vaccines, in case of a pandemic. And, as we know, also in October, we had Bill and Melinda Gates, the Event 201, the Plandemic Event 201, where they were projecting this whole what would happen if we got hit by, a coronavirus. So, and we've got Pfizer and mRNA, or Pfizer and Moderna are making the mRNA vaccine, which is an experimental vaccine They've been working on this type of vaccine for at least a decade that we know of. And now suddenly we're prepared to use this vaccine technology, which they're calling now warp speed, because they put it out there in such record time. I was listening to Z-Dog. I started to post it. It's kind of long. I think it's about 20 minutes. And Z-Dog MD is pro-vax big time. But even in this whole thing, I'm really starting to think that he is questioning. As much of a bold face as the guy is putting on, and I will link it in this so you can see it, because if you just listen to like the last 3 minutes of what he has to say, because he goes into real detail about how they manufacture the mRNA vaccine. And I mean, if you're interested in that, listen to it. But I'm kind of a bottom line person. So what's the bottom line? Well, what the bottom line is, we ain't ever done this before, which makes you a lab rat if you get it injected into you. So, but he says he sympathizes with the fact that people are scared and they're skeptical, and he understands that because this is new vaccine technology. It's never been done before. We've only got really early data right now to look at. And then he goes on to say that he and his family will not be getting it until much more data has come in. And he has this mug, and he says, because at the end of the day, you want to science it out. In other words, so it was just, to me, I was like, whoa, I think this guy's like even backpedaling. And he had Paul Offit on there, which I did post that, I think it was yesterday. And Dr. Paul Offit's just talking about, oh yeah, it's just remarkable. We just can't believe how fast they've done this. And I'm like, is anybody not getting a red flag here? I mean, I don't care how pro-vax you are and the whole bit. It just seems to me that anybody with half a brain, knowing that the data that they're going on, if you read what they're looking at, how long the people have been vaccinated, what the total time is, we've got new vaccine technology, we're messing with DNA. There's got to be a party that just goes, wait a minute, hold up. So, but I wanted to share with you about the eggs. That was really, and that the eggs, chicken eggs, I found another article because I wanted to research what she was saying, and it had to do with domestic poultry and SARS coronavirus, southern China. This is actually an article that was written back in 2004 when the original SARS-CoV-1, hit, which was not a big deal as from a number standpoint. But anyway, they were trying to figure out where this virus originated. And it says coronaviruses have been identified in numerous mammalian and avian hosts. Most widely and studied of common occurrence are coronaviruses reported in chickens, turkey, cats, dogs, mice, rabbits, etc. So with the flu shot, it's grown in chick embryo cells, it's grown in canine kidney cells, certain ones, and the third type is grown in actually an insect cell. So if you're a person that just thinks you need to rush out and get that no-cost flu shot that has very limited effectiveness and a bunch of other chemical stuff in there, most of them have formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, Triton X, just, chemicals. If you want to avoid anything that might be contaminated with coronavirus, go with the one with the animal insect. Just saying. I personally don't want any of them. Never have, never will. Then I came across, just before I went to jump on, yes, your boss can fire you if you refuse to get a COVID vaccine. This is Monday, December 7th. And it says, companies are considering compulsory COVID vaccination requirements as a condition of employment. Under law, an employer can force an employee to get vaccinated, and if they don't, fire them, said somebody at a Dallas labor and employment attorney. Guys, this stuff is just, it's really terrifying that employers are going to be able to consider doing stuff like this. And this is when we need to stand up big time. Another thing I just wanted to, so this past Saturday, we celebrated my grandbaby's, she'll be a year actually this Thursday, December the 10th. But about a week before her birthday, I get this little card in the mail because they used to live here before they moved down the street where they live now. Happy first birthday, it says. First birthday checklist. This actually was mailed Florida Department of Health. That is not about health, apparently. Okay. So on the first birthday checklist, we've got bake cake, buy presents, send invitations, schedule 12-month checkup. Well, schedule 12-month checkup, I know this is backwards because it's alive, that's the only thing checked. I thought, yeah, I bet you want us to. Because see, this kid's hardly been to the doctor. She hadn't been sick. I think she's had a little bit of a runny nose over the course of a couple of days in this first year of her life. She's never run a fever to any of our knowledge. I mean, this kid has just been so healthy. But we don't jack her up with toxins either in the name of health. So anyway, yeah, they had a whole list of things. Your child may receive shots at the 12-month visit. Well, yeah, if we don't say no and hell no. To help protect against the following vaccine preventable diseases: hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza type B, invasive pneumococcal disease, polio, influenza, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, hepatitis A. The reality of it is, if you do your research on how many children were even contracting these diseases before we started vaccinating for them, it's less than 1%. That's right, contracting, not dying. Dying, we're in the 0.01%. Yeah. So why am I going to, as I texted my daughter, I sent her a picture, I said, oh, you'll love this. She said, why am I going to make my perfectly healthy child sick? I said, that's what I'm talking about. All right, guys. So, before I jump off here, I just want us to continue to pray. And Rudy Giuliani, I don't know how sick he is or isn't. He said he tested positive for COVID. You know, of course, this is a case-driven pandemic. It's not a death-driven pandemic. It's a case-driven pandemic because they test everybody and their dog multiple times over, depending on where you work and what you do. The tests have false positives, false negatives. The average is like 7% of the tests come back positive, which means, you know, so like when you see, well, there were 5,000 new cases, I mean, that means they had to test like over 50,000 people. You know what I'm saying? In any state or area. So keep that in mind. If we just said that 10% of the cases are coming back positive, which is slower than that, and they tell you that there's all these new positive cases in New York or wherever, multiply that number, you know, because that's only 10%. If those people came back positive, they tested way more than that, right? Okay, so just something to think about. The verbiage, if the public health officials determine that residents of the state are not developing sufficient immunity from COVID, the department shall mandate vaccination for all individuals, blah, blah, blah. Which brings me to another point. Thank you for that comment, Janice. So another thing I saw right before I jumped on here was Rita Wilson and Hank, oh God, what's his name? I can't think of it. The guy that they think is a child pedophile, maybe Tom Hanks, that's what it is. Sorry, mine went blank. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson are showing, because they both were diagnosed with COVID way back, they still have antibodies 8 and 9 months later. Some other famous person, same thing. You know, they're conducting studies to see how long the antibodies last. Now, these are people that actually had the disease and died. But they're doing this so that they can determine how often they need to give this vaccine, right? Even though the vaccine is made in a lab and it's not like any other vaccine we've ever done. So, but if you get natural COVID, right now it's showing at least 8 to 9 months, maybe longer. And of course, as we know, if you've studied, you have a 99+% recovery rate unless you're over 70, and then it's like 74.6% recovery rate. But they're talking about that they want herd immunity. And the whole thing that gets me about the herd immunity thing is they're acting like the only way you can get herd immunity is for everybody to get vaccinated. When in reality, herd immunity was a thing. That's how all diseases have died out, other than, I mean, they claim that smallpox eradicated, or the vaccine eradicated smallpox. But, okay, I'm not going to go there. But how many pandemics have we ever vaccinated our way out of? How many illnesses have we ever vaccinated our way out of? Like even measles. 10 years before the measles vaccine came on the market, the death rate in the U.S. had dropped way down in the 1940s with clean air, clean water, sanitation, antibiotics, and that kind of thing. And so we were at a point of somewhere between 0 and 1 out of 100,000 were dying that had the measles, and who knows whatever else they had going on. So the measles death rate in the U.S. was like nil. And yet they still decided in the 60s, oh, we need a vaccine. Anyway, we won't get into the measles. Magically, the measles in 2019, it was a terrible thing. They were scaring us, trying to scare us to death for people that didn't know the facts. And the measles, kind of like the flu and everything else, have magically disappeared. If COVID was so deadly, we would all be dead now. Exactly. Same with the homeless, and especially the homeless. I mean, do you really think the homeless are walking around in masks? I mean, the homeless thing is a really big problem. It seems like maybe at the very least, the whole COVID thing could have helped remedy the homeless situation some, but yet the homeless have survived magically. So, but anyway, back to herd immunity. Herd immunity is something the vaccine industry took that was a real thing in real life that didn't involve a vaccine. But now they make it sound like, well, if you don't get the vaccine, we can't establish herd immunity. Well, if the antibodies are lasting 8, 9, 10 months, who knows? And especially if a person who maybe realizes, okay, I got coronavirus, I was stressed, I wasn't eating well, I felt like crap for a week or two or whatever, but I'm going to take better care of myself. I'm going to start maybe taking some vitamins. I'm going to start eating some fruits and vegetables and maybe juicing and actually getting sleep and really realizing that how I take care of my body is going to reflect how effectively it can fight off any virus, not just the coronavirus, right? Who knows if it's going to come around, or even if it does come around again, if it's even going to be that severe for them. Back in my younger days, I used to get a lot sicker when I was like in pharmacy school and stuff like that, back in my 20s, because I didn't eat near as well as I do. And now I'm almost 60 years old, and by the grace of God, but also diligence in taking care of myself, I am rarely to never ever sick. And so I'm actually healthier now than I was 30 years ago. I had horrible asthma. I was eating a lot of dairy. I didn't realize I was allergic to dairy. Because I didn't have like lactose intolerance. It wasn't that type of allergy. And no doctor ever picked up on it. I was born in the era when cow's milk was healthier for the baby for a human baby than mama's milk, which is utter total stupidity. And now we realize that cow's milk is made for baby cows. If you like cow's milk, you can drink cow's milk. But to think it's better for you than breast milk, your mother's breast milk, it's lunacy, right? So to me, the whole thrust needs to be toward people improving their health. Of course, that doesn't make the pharmaceutical industry money, and that's the real issue here. So let's see. Here in Greece, they said they won't let us do anything without the vaccine. I'm never going to do it. Man, I am so sorry, Athena. just really pray, because to me, the only way that this crap is going to stop is for the people to stand up in mass numbers and say no and absolutely not. I just don't see any way out of it. It's got to be a revolt. And, you know, they really started priming us with this whole thing, at least in America, with the flu vaccine. And, you know, I'll never forget when I think it was in 2009, I was practicing as a pharmacist. I had to go through the immunization certification class and all that. And they said, oh, yeah, and you need to get a flu shot. You're going to need to get a flu shot, and you're going to need to get the Hep B series. I'm telling you, I told them they could kiss my butt. And in the nicest possible way. And I found out, I did some research and found out that there was a philosophical exemption I could sign. I never got any of those vaccines, but I took a stand. But so many people just bow down. And that's where they started priming us for, if you want to keep your job, then you're going to have to be injected. And, you know, President Trump signed this executive order back in 2019 to expand the vaccine thing. And I was looking at that executive order. And in line B, it says, vaccination is the most effective defense against influenza. They make that statement on the CDC website too. If you'll notice, there's never a link to any study to prove their point. You know why? Because there is actually no sound evidence to back that statement. Because when they study who got vaccinated and who got influenza, the study group is always the sick. The people that showed up at the hospital, the people that they weren't well enough to keep their butts out of the hospital, vaccinated and unvaccinated. And then they base that statement. And so they make a statement that projects to everybody, regardless of how they eat, what their healthcare habits are, etc. But they're not studying the healthy, they're studying the sick. Well, I'm sorry, but you are not going to make recommendations to me based on what Jim Bob and Earlene, the fact that they couldn't eat healthy enough, you know, their life is dependent on prescription drugs. They want to live on, you know, chicken nuggets and whatever other crap. And then you're going to tell me I'm going to get vaccinated based on people that are making those kind of decisions and showing up at the hospital. You got to be out of your mind. You know, and so that's what drives me nuts. But people read stuff like that. I mean, the flu vaccine, and it's been magical this year, because I posted something earlier about the fact that we're not even hearing anything about the flu. I mean, normally this time of year, they're really pushing the flu vaccine. Of course, they're really pushing the vaccine now, but they're basing it on flu deaths. Well, now people have COVID pneumonia. They don't just have pneumonia anymore. And we're not hearing about the flu. We're not really hearing about flu deaths. As a matter of fact, there was an article about, and I posted that too, had to do with, they're not even getting here it is, flu hospitalizations this season, too low for CDC to run model on disease burden. How does that happen? How does that happen? Unless the COVIDers had the flu and then they got COVID, and we're counting everybody as a COVID? I don't know. Pretty amazing. But anyway, all right, I just want to continue to declare and pray that the truth will prevail as far as this election. That's what my employer told me. If I don't get it, I would be terminated. The deadline was October 31st. Oh, the flu shot? It was a condition. Let's see. I'm still working. I talked to HR and they told me it was a condition of employment. I'm telling you, people, if they can convince you that they're going to fire you. I mean, trust me, as a person who lost my job over standing up for my principles, I feel your pain. I really do. But I'm here to tell you it's not the end of the world. And I would rather stand by my principles. And yeah, it's been a rough year. I won't lie. Matter of fact, I'm looking at going to law school because I have come to the solid realization I do not want to be a part of this medical system at all. There's no pharmacist job out there that I can see that I want, that I can do with a good conscience. And I don't know. I think I'm supposed to be getting involved in politics and maybe practice law. You know, my granddaddy was state's attorney for over 20 something years. So it's kind of in my blood, just like pharmacy was. And I'm like, I am done with this medical system. Other than helping people understand what's in the vaccines, helping them to understand so they can make an informed choice about whether they want to vaccinate their child. You know, it's everybody's choice, but people need to know what they're doing. And I've seen a lot of normal pro-vaxxers speaking against the COVID vax. Yeah, I know. I have seen that too, Brandy. And I think it's one of those things. It's like once you start to realize that there's a problem. Because see, this is my thing. When I started to really wake up to what was going on with the pharmaceutical industry, it didn't start with vaccines for me. It started with me realizing as a practicing pharmacist in retail that the pharmaceutical industry didn't care about the people. And I saw it in the way, just in a variety of different ways that did not involve vaccines initially at all. And then we got reeled into, oh yeah, now all pharmacists have to give the flu shot, and that whole started going down that bunny trail, which nightmare, which set off really, I mean, it really set off, I believe, the pharmaceutical industry going from $1 million, the vaccine industry being $1 million industry to a multi-billion-dollar industry. Is when it became, you know, every CVS, every Walgreens, every Winn-Dixie, whatever, is giving the vaccines. And that's when it really started rolling. And I really believe that in that, they saw their ability to control people. They saw their ability to maximize profit. And it has just literally snowballed from there. And I mean, my personal belief, and this is my opinion about this whole COVID thing, I think COVID was coming, Donald Trump or not. I believe Donald Trump winning in 2016 was an ugly, ugly surprise for the Democrats. And I don't, but because here's the thing. They've been working on this mRNA technology for a decade, maybe more than a decade. So they're coming along and they're already planning on mandatory vaccines for adults. That was already in the works. I mean, it was already happening with the flu vaccine. They were mandating it basically. If you want to keep your job as a nurse, if you want to do this, you've got to get a flu vaccine. So that they started all that in motion. They started the PSYOP, the mind control. Donald Trump, sadly for them, got in office and threw a wrench in things. But I believe this little pandemic, I call it other things, was going to hit, but Hillary, they were thinking that Hillary was going to be in office in 2016, and then Hillary was going to pave the way, and they were going to be able to get this whole thing brought about and the mandatory vaccine in place. So what they haven't accounted for is Donald Trump being in office, even though I know he's been at warp speed, and I have huge issues with that, and that's a whole nother bunny trail. But they just weren't planning for Donald Trump. And the thing about Donald Trump, because he is an American, he's a patriot, he's the anti-vaxxers and the people that were speaking out against vaccines didn't get shut down near as quickly as we probably would have under Hillary. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's thrown a whole wrench, because now we're looking at over 50% of Americans anyway are going, oh, I'm not getting this vaccine. I mean, I just shared Terrence Williams, who's got millions of followers, Terrence K. Williams, the comedian, talking about the vaccine, you know, on a live video about he's not getting it. And, you know, you think about all the people that are listening to him. So, and now I'm listening to even Z-Dog going, I'm not getting it until there's more data out. And I'm thinking, yeah, buddy, maybe even you're starting to wake up, and that's pretty exciting. Oh, yeah, Terrence is hilarious. Hillary must go to jail. I don't even know where Hillary is. Talk about, she's either laying low. Some people think she's no longer here. I don't know. I don't buy into the whole cloning thing. I'm sorry. I just can't go down that trail. But she's certainly been silent, which on any given day is a lot of work for her. So you got to wonder what the heck is going on. Fauci predicted Trump would face an outbreak like this in 2000. Yeah, that's what I think, Angela. You know, and so I believe it's been the plan all along. And now they've used it to usher in the mail-in ballots, to rewrite laws. You know, the whole Dominion voting system, which just praying for the truth of that to come out. I was reading in Daniel the other day, and I think it was in Daniel 7. I was actually going to do a video about this, and I got sidetracked. But it talks about, now this is the vision that the Lord gave Daniel about the end times. It's pretty fascinating. And so I'm just, you know, casually reading through this because I'm reading the book of Daniel. And it says in verse 12, as for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. And then in another verse, this is in verse 27, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So anyway, but it was talking about dominion. And I thought, there is no coincidence that the creators of that software chose that name. I mean, here we've got Daniel back in, you know, whatever the year is before Christ, given a vision, and they're talking about these evil beasts and having dominion for a season, and then it's taken away. But I mean, it just really gave me chills, because I thought, there is no accident that this software that they're finding so much about now that's coming out, and I'm just believing and praying and declaring that the truth about the software will be exposed, and what it's actually done for this election and previous elections, but that it's named Dominion. I mean, that's just because they were seeking dominion over whatever nation they were using the software in, that they would have the dominion of whatever party that they wanted to win. So anyway, just something else to consider. I was like, yeah, it's no accidents. So just continuing as Christians to pray and declare that Dominion software, number one, is not going to continue to have dominion in the name of Jesus. And it's going to be exposed, and the truth will prevail. So I mean, obviously every day we're closer to the end times than we were, right? I mean, when I say, are we closer? I definitely think we are. I think we're fulfilling prophecy. And yet, as I've been praying this whole year, part of I've been in a depression, guys. I mean, so that's why sometimes I have not been really consistent with videos, because, you know, my career was a big deal to me. And to lose it and to realize, well, I haven't really lost it, but to say, okay, I literally cannot do this anymore and serve God. Like, it's God or money, right? And going, okay, Lord, I'm choosing you. And it's really been depressing. And I've been like, what am I doing with my life? And I mean, I do counsel you guys independently. And by the way, I want to put it out there if you have any questions. But it's just been a real, like, what am I doing? You know, I mean, I know how to counsel individual patients, but how do you set up a business? How do you generate something that's going to make income? I mean, the thing about pharmacists, we're really good at showing up and doing our job, okay? Most pharmacists are followers. They don't question the system. They don't ask a lot of questions. We're told to do, you know, we recommend what the CDC says, and if we don't, we're severely frowned upon. Well, I personally have no faith in the CDC because I've seen what they recommend. I've seen what they base it on. I've seen that there's never any like challenge with the pharmaceutical industry. They walk hand in hand, step by step. In my opinion, they are bought. Okay, they're not an independent agency. They are an affiliate of the pharmaceutical industry. So, you know, I've been going through this whole thing this year, just praying, going, okay, what am I doing now, Lord? What am I doing? And I don't know, the other night as I was praying, law came up. It was just like, why don't you be an attorney? You're always, you know, because there's, I mean, medical malpractice, vaccine injury, you know, I feel like I could really make a difference as an attorney and be able to stand up for what I believe in and help defend people who have been injured or victims, as opposed to working somewhere in the pharmacy field and facilitating pharma, you know, pharmakia, sorcery, witchcraft, spells. No, I'm over it. Thanks. And honestly, if I'd realized sooner what I was really a part of, I probably would have bailed sooner, but I just didn't. And anyway, I for one really appreciate expertise and knowledge. You're a huge, oh, thank you, sweetie. I appreciate that. And I do. If you know, there's so many mothers out there that I see on some of the vaccine groups that I'm in that are questioning. You know, I mean, there was literally a mother that was talking about, I know that my doctor's going to hit me up about the DTaP vaccine. You know, she's pregnant. What do I say? And I basically was like, you need to grow a set, because, you know, you're going to, if you don't stand up now, they're going to vaccinate the hell out of your kid. So I just don't understand this whining. I mean, I guess I don't know. I just don't understand not standing up. And I guess too, I have a daughter that like stood up to everybody. Of course, you know, she is my daughter, but I mean, it's your kid's life on the line, people. Do you not get that? So anyway, I feel like I'm just kind of rambling, but I covet your prayers just for the Lord to show me the town I'm living in. There is a law school, a really good law school. It would be three years. And I just feel like I have a lot of life left, even though I'm almost 60 years old. I'm 58. And I just want to really make a difference. And then I would still keep my pharmacy license active and be able to counsel people. So I would basically be working like two careers, but I wouldn't be working for CVS or Walgreens or some place where I'm having to, you know, compromise my morals and to contribute to the demise of the health of people. So, all right, guys. So keep declaring. I'm going to hop off here. Thanks for watching. Read your Bible. Read Daniel 7. It's really good. When he talks about the beast and the vision, it's really interesting. And it's too long for me to read, or I'd go into it. But dominion, the word dominion just keeps popping up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not a coincidence, people. That is not a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, thank you, Brandy, so much. And if you guys do need to contact me, sometimes I don't see messenger stuff. Please email me if you have questions about drugs, your kids, yourself, whatever. I'm more than happy to help you. If you go to my website, thewisepharmacist.com, Right now I have what I call a cheat sheet for parents, and it really goes through the vaccines that are given from birth to 6 months or within the first year. I want to continue and build on that and do up to 2 years, but I haven't had a chance to get to it yet. So anyway, to me, if you just start reading, and because I go through statistically on each thing that we vaccinate for, the odds of your child contracting it, the odds of your child dying, you start to see the pattern. And that's the important thing, is the pattern. The pattern is blow these diseases up, make them seem so much more dangerous and deadly than they actually are in healthy human beings. But that's pharma's tactic. And then gets you to buy into the fact that you need a drug, you need a vaccine, you need whatever. It's crazy. Hey, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Love you too, Chelsea. All right, so guys, let's keep praying, believing President Trump's going to be our president for the next 4 years, declaring that in the name of Jesus, because he did, in fact, win the election. If all the voter fraud that they're claiming, and it's a lot of people, then we know who really won that election. And I mean, to think that 80 million people voted for a guy that can't even finish his sentence. I mean, are you high? Are you high? I mean, what kind of drugs are you people doing? But what do you do? All right. Thanks, Cheryl. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great night. Love you all.